in 1999, when government invited us to be part of the drafting of the white paper, we now need to put in place structures. So we went to PricewaterhouseCoopers. Somebody took us there and says, they will help draw up a trust document for you, a national trust. So that any money is coming, because government wanted to pay the chiefs, start paying the chiefs. And I said, whoa, you need to stop. You can't pay the chiefs. Because when you pay the chiefs, they're employed by you. And then they have to do what you tell them. I said, but put the money into a trust account. So PricewaterhouseCoopers drew up a trust document for us. And they gave it to us as a gift. So now we had a trust instrument for monies to come in. People started using that trust document, getting funding, and they misappropriated that funds for themselves. So I went back to PricewaterhouseCoopers. I says, I need a copy of the trust for me. And they gave us a trust, and the trust was registered as the Khoisan Cultural Movement Trust. And it was registered in 2002 already. So we have an instrument where we have trustees. I have a royal council. So I have a council that sits with me, but I also have an inner council, advisors, that gives me guidance because I need to do everything right. We cannot afford to make mistakes. We're too late in our life to make mistakes. There's not another chance for us to get liberty. So we have to do everything right. So I have an inner circle of council, which I call the Royal Council. Then I have another outer circle of advisors that advises me in their particular portfolios of what they're good at. Because everybody has a gift that God has given him that he's good at. And that gift he needs to use for the benefit of the people. Otherwise, it's not a blessing. So they come forward and he says, I can do this, and I can do that. And these are the people around me that advises me. Because a few weeks ago, somebody says to me, now, what are you going to do when you get into Parliament? I says, that is not my place. My place is not in Parliament. I'll tell you why my place is not in Parliament. Because in 2001, when Contra Lesser launched the Western Cape Contra Lesser, they invited all the chiefs. And their constitution says that you can only be a member of Contra Lesser if you're a bloodline leader. And I was the only Khoisan chief there at the time. And then they appointed me as the vice president of Contra Lesser for the Western Cape. And I was excited about it because now I'm part of an institution that was established in 1994. I was part of the national AGM. I was the only Khoisan person. And they spoke their own language, and I didn't understand it. And I felt I didn't belong. They didn't make me feel belonging, like I should belong there. Because they didn't speak my language. And then, when they heard I'm going to the United Nations, they said, can you please represent us at the United Nations because we're not registered at the United Nations. Because they don't acknowledge us as Aboriginal people. Because they're not. I spoke to Patakilo Lamisa a while back, and I said to him, you need to understand that you are not the indigenous people in South Africa. The Khoisan are the indigenous people. I said, oh, you are indigenous to Africa, without a doubt. Indigenous to Africa, but not South Africa. South Africa is the Khoisan people. So I told them, I cannot go sit in Parliament. That is for politicians. A wise king told me one day when Thabo Mbeki was in our presence, and he said to me, that's my child. The people chose him to govern. So he must govern the people. But as a king, I must rule a nation. And party politics has no part in ruling a nation. We have to rule a nation with love and with kindness and with truth. But truth spoken with kindness. There's an old saying in life that says, truth spoken with kindness frees much more than it hurts. Because truth spoken with aggression becomes a curse. I often say to people, the staff that I have, my grandfather taught me how to fight with a kiri since I was 13 years old. I know how to fight with a kiri. I can, but I don't, because I have love in my heart. The red is the love, and the vibrance I have in my heart to share. And the white is the peace I offer you. And the gold is the truth that I speak. And these beads are made of seeds, so I preserve life. And the truth is I'm a valiant warrior. I fear nothing other than God. So ek is nie bang vir jou nie. Ek skrik nie vir jou nie. But I love you. And that is how we've been reared all our life. We have a culture in life that people ask, now, where's your culture? And I say, do you remember? The neighbors to ask, ga vra van die Hetty vir 'n bietjie visolie. En dan later, dan steeds jy pannekoek. Vra van die Sarah 'n bietjie eif. 'n bietjie suiker. And when we have, mother never used to dish the last food out of the pot. Never. There's always food left in the pot because she says, you never know who's going to knock on the door. So there's always food over. Doesn't matter if there was not enough, but there was always. I spoke to one of the imams a while back and he said to me, you know, people talk about when they have their Ramadan time and they give barakat. It's not a Muslim thing. It's a Khoi thing. It is part of a culture that we all are part of and belong to. Sharing and giving and being kind, loving one another. It's godly values that we have, but we've forgotten that. And this is what we need to reinstill back into the people. They've lost the love for God. They've lost the spirituality. They are so angry with life because they've been deprived for so long. And all we're saying is, stop. Just stop. The wise man told me one day, he says, in life we must make wise decisions. But to make wise decisions, we must become quiet. Because when you're quiet, you can hear. And when you hear, you can listen to what is being said. And when you listen, you know what they're talking about. And when you know what they're talking about, you can understand how they feel. And when you understand how they feel, then you can make a wise decision. But to make a wise decision is become quiet. How many of us has taken the time to become quiet? Our old people used to take us into the desert, leave us there and said, listen, and come back and says, what did you hear? Nothing. No, you never heard yet. You never heard yet. Listen. And come back later and says, what did you hear? Say, oh, I heard the lizard running in the sand. And I heard the eagle screaming. And I heard the sand sliding down the dunes. Now you listened. If we take time to become quiet and listen to ourselves. You see, because when God made man, He never made man to suffer. But we've become so engrossed in our circumstances that our lives have changed. It's all about me, myself, and I. My grandfather told me one day, he says, my boy, go fetch me some sand. And I came back with a handful of sand. He says, now open your hand. And I says, where's the sand? I said, I don't know, Pa, it's gone. He says, now go fetch more sand, but don't close your hand. And I came back. He says, did you lose any? I says, no, Pa. He says, never close your hand. Because when your hand is open, others can take out and others can put in. Always be a blessing. So my hand is always open. And my hand is open to reach out for whoever wants to help. And I'm calling, I says, come help me. Because we are 3.8 million people, Khoisan people, registered in South Africa. 3.8 million people registered in South Africa. That is not legislated yet. And we're saying whoever has the capacity and abilities and gifts that God has given them, come. Come help me. Help me save my people. I said one day to the Grand Chief of the New Zealand, Ariki, I said to him, if your heart, because he asked, can I help you? I said, if your heart is like my heart, come get in my charity and come help me help my people. So I'm putting a question out there. Whoever has the capacity and the abilities that believe they can help, come. My hand and my heart is open for all the help that I can get.